I'm going to explain here now why I love the 10th Planet so much and why I consider it one of my favourite of the First Doctor serials and a great template for the best serials of the 60s in Doctor Who in general, most of which were, of course, in the Second Doctor's era. If the 10th Planet, the studio was running out of resources, they had to resort to this particular production plan to suit a narrative, and one which was economic and effective narratively. Here's what they settled upon. Let's have the story take place in one set the entire time. We'll introduce these new alien menace. Now, a lot of the budget's going to go to their costume design and all that, obviously, sound effects. And so we'll have these Cybermen attack a base, and the tension will be around an interaction with the Cybermen as the Doctor's trying to outwit them at this one specific location. And by focusing on this one location, we'll build an atmosphere and a mood that, when you're watching it in the dead of night, heck, you're there. It's a formula that some might associate in hindsight, with retrospect, to Bernard Quatermass, particularly Quatermass and the Pit. In 1967, not long after this serial's airing in 66, the Hammer Film Productions adaptation of Quatermass and the Pit would set a template for the John Pertwee era, the Third Doctor's era, wherein, to save production costs, they set a lot of storylines on Earth. They wrote in the Doctor was exiled to Earth. He's working with the UNIT, the United Nations Intelligence Task Force, and they're battling alien threats on Earth, rocking up in contemporary London. Good stuff. Planet hopping is all well and good, and several sets in one serial is, sounds like an ideal, but here's the thing, Doctor Who really fell into this trap of there's some antagonists, they arrive at a new place, one of the companions gets captured, escapes, maybe the Doctor even gets captured, someone escapes, and they tell this person that, and they get that, and then, but unfortunately they try to do this, then they get captured again. When everything's set in the one location, it's more difficult to fall into that tired formula. The 10th Planet establishes a pattern for many major classic serials of the Second Doctor's era, and I would say the Third's as well, sending them in one location with some ominous alien menace threatening the Doctor, him trying to outwit them, and especially if it's a location that's isolated. In this case, the 10th Planet's set in an Antarctic base, and you just... It's so absorbing and real, and the design of the Cybermen at this time is absolutely spooky. I have to admit, I like the Daleks, but I think the Cybermen, particularly in this black and white era, throughout the Second Doctor's reign, Cybermen are so cool. They're like the coolest baddies during the later 60s. Really are. They're arguably never as cool in colour, although everyone knows how great Fifth Doctor's Earthshock is, for sure. I think if I could have any Doctor Who serial found and recovered, it might be Second Doctor's The Wheel in Space. The imagery of that, and especially the way it was utilised on Solid Space's Space Museum album cover in 1982, for that little cassette, the imagery, the surrealistic, nightmarish, expressionistic, almost, images of the Wheel in Space are the finest in the history of horror and sci-fi. It's pure madness-inducing nightmares, the images of the Wheel in Space, Zoe being unknowingly confronted by those two Cybermen, and they're like, people talk about like that serial, like, oh, the two Cybermen, they seem goofy in comparison to the kind of scary Cybermen of the Invasion or Tomb of the Cybermen, but like, no, man, these are like nightmare spooky. Like, as a kid, how terrifying would that serial be? Just watching Zoe being stalked by these two Cybermen with their hands up in the air. Ooh, like, come on, man. Also, I'm talking about a different serial entirely than the 10th Planet, and we don't want to get blocked. So tune in next time. We read out the behind-the-scenes information for this glorious final serial of the First Doctor. Goodbye, William Hartnell. You are much appreciated. Thanks again, my friends. Have the best possible day and night you have ever imagined, or ever could imagine.